Do you find that people are actually like honest about their experiences with their parents or one of the things I'm always curious about because being an Indian woman and in our culture people don't often go to therapists and um people are kind of they feel shameful. There's a shame aspect of it and so I wonder, do people ever kind of gloss over their family trauma or make it not seem because they don't want to talk shit about their families?
You mean in therapy?
Yeah.
It's
Or
a
are
really
people pretty honest?
interesting question. I think that first of all, when people come to therapy, they they want to be honest. That doesn't mean that they are honest,
Yeah.
but it means that they, at least that's their intention is to be honest, right? And if they're not honest, it's not because they try to hide things. And in emotional inheritance, I call it secrets you keep from yourself, or
Mm.
the secrets we keep from ourselves. What does that mean? It means that sometimes we don't want to know. Sometimes knowing might cause us anxiety, confusion, pain. Sometimes knowing something that we find out about our family, or even identifying, right? Feeling bad for your mother who went through something is something that shakens you because you don't want to identify with her. You're angry at her, let's say. And I think for some people, one of the things that I heard from people who read the book, actually, not necessarily my patients, is that the hesitation to think about their emotional inheritance is because they want to tell themselves that they could completely disconnect from the parents. And whatever happened to the parents happened to them. It did not impact me. Right. And I think that's where the conflict is about knowing. And that's where we sometimes keep secrets from ourselves when we actually say, I don't want to know. I don't care. Right.
That's so fascinating. I uh, definitely have been in that place before. Having I used to have a very rough relationship with my dad. And so then learning about his trauma, it obviously made me empathize with him when I found out, but you also almost don't want to find out because you're like, well, I don't want to
Mhm.
justify his bullshit behavior. He was still a dick, you know?
And that's
Um,
exactly right. That's exactly right. And I think it's justified in a sense that this is knowing your parents' trauma is not a way to justify their behavior. It is, and it must be, and right. This is this tension that we explore in therapy too, right? What does it mean? Because sometimes the question is, so whose fault is it? If it's not your father's fault, so maybe it is your fault. Who's bad, right, and who's good? And so I think that you're right. It is very confusing to realize that your parents are victims as well, and you can be a victim too. And that doesn't mean that it justifies anything, right? Being a dick or being abusive and it doesn't mean that you have to forgive them. But I think that there is something about the way that they lived or what happened to them that impacted you in many, many ways. And it's about knowing yourself. It's not necessarily about forgiving them.
Firstly, I'm very curious. How do you become aware of what emotional trauma or
Mhm.
emotional inheritance you are actually inheriting?
Yeah, that's a perfect question, because I think that many people, um, first of all, did not even start with the most obvious, asking, what is the history? So, and it's surprising, right? That we think, yeah, of course, I know my parents' history. But then when you go and methodically starts, saying, okay, let me go over what was my mother's history, what happened, and you start realizing the gaps. You start noticing that you know some of the information, but some things are missing. And I think what we do often is follow the gaps. Follow not only what is said. And sometimes the information is what was said, like in your case when you're describing it. Sometimes it's easier because you immediately make the link between what happened to your parents and how you experience life. But sometimes it's more complicated. Sometimes there is nobody to ask. Sometimes there is a lot missing. And then we're sitting and understanding what is missing and how. And if there is anybody to ask, what I hear from people is that some people have book clubs with emotional inheritance, which is a really interesting idea. I didn't think of it myself, I have to say. But some people told me that that's what their family did. And I thought, wow, that's a really special family, right?
Yeah,
to sit and read about emotional inheritance and then
very open family.
Yeah, it's the opposite of what we're talking about, right? Of people that are willing and want to share meaning, I would say, to share meaning, to share something and to say, this belongs to all of us.
Have you ever seen the show Ginny and Georgia on Netflix?
No.
Okay, I think you have to watch it because it's literally a show about emotional inheritance and like generational trauma. So in Ginny and Georgia, Ginny is the 16-year-old girl. Georgia is this like beautiful, cool mom, but has like these very dark secrets. And Ginny is this teenager going through like intense level of anxiety. And a lot of it is because of the stuff mom went through. She passed down to the kid. And mom didn't tell Ginny that she was sexually assaulted or abused or, she was a teenage mom herself at 16. But because of that, she told her daughter, don't trust men, don't trust anybody, don't whatever. So then Ginny is going through life like she wants to trust people, but she can't. And then when somebody lets her down, it becomes this like overwhelmingly anxious experience. And then she's trying to hold her mom's secrets, but in holding her secrets, she's doing self-harm to herself because as a 16-year-old, she's not equipped to hold an adult's secrets. So it is true that like so much of what our families tell us, I mean, anything, right? I think the big thing also is about money. Yeah. People are always like told, some concept of money, money makes you bad. Money makes you evil. I don't care for money. Right? Yeah. Or whichever one it is.
Yeah, a lot of hypocrisy around money, right? Around money and sex.
Yes.
These two topics that people are very hypocritical about. And I think there are double messages there. Because, when you said that the mother tells the daughter, I haven't watched that, but be careful, you can't trust men. We have to remember that we communicate, or parents communicate with their children, you can't trust men in many, many ways that are not necessarily direct, right? Some mothers, let's say, do not tell their daughters, you have to be careful, but they communicate the same message, which is actually more confusing because then if I ask you, did your mom ever tell you to be careful, that men are dangerous? You would say, no, she never did that. She actually told me that she hopes that she loves my boyfriend or that she hopes so, right? But there is some message that is communicated. And we, in the book, I think especially in the last chapter on Alice, there is exactly that dynamic of a mother that had been betrayed and traumatized. And I trace how she communicates with Alice, her daughter, her fear and her anxiety, and warns her, but never explicitly, that that the only person she should trust is herself, that she should never have a relationship because it's too dangerous. And I show in the chapter, how does she do that, right? How is it that the daughter picks up something that is very confusing to her because it was not said explicitly, but it was communicated.
I hope you guys enjoyed that video and check out our next one. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to this channel for more amazing dating, love, and relationship advice from me and so many expert guests. Follow us on socials. We're at Kinda Dating across the board. I'm Natasha Chandel, so you can find me too if you like. And join our newsletter on www.kindadating.com for lots of exclusives. See you soon.